Okay, everybody say hi. This is my audience, Anthony and Courtney.
Hello.
This back a little bit over here. Okay. So on November 22nd, 1963, a black Cadillac convertible moved down the streets of downtown Dallas, Texas. Out of nowhere, shots were fired. And at that point in time, the 35th President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, was assassinated. So not only was it an important piece of American history, one of the most important iconic legends in American history died that day. So my name is Sam Schumacher. Thank you guys for coming here tonight. While it's important to know that the assassination was the most prominent part of JFK, I think it's important to know the man himself. So tonight I'm going to talk about his early life, his early political and military career, his term as the president, 35th President of the United States, and ultimately his assassination. So John F. Kennedy was born May 29, 1917 in Berkshire, Massachusetts. He was born the son of Joseph P. Kennedy, who was a known statesman. He was also the ambassador to the United Kingdom for the United States. John F. Kennedy started his collegiate career at Harvard, where he received his Bachelor's of Science degree in Foreign Affairs, and he continued on to Stanford. Ultimately, he tried to join the U.S. Army, where he was rejected due to medical and health reasons. So he ended up going to the officer program for the United States Navy. So he became an officer and started off as an ensign, and he went to PT, Patrol Boat School, where he became a PT commander for PT boat. When he was serving in the Solomon Islands, his PT boat was slammed into by a Japanese destroyer, leaving him and his crew in the water. John F. Kennedy took one of his badly burned crew members and tied him to a lanyard, put the lanyard in his mouth, and swam him back to sea, or back to the shore, saved his life. So they were ultimately rescued, and he received the Navy and Marine Corps Medal for his honors. After that, John F. Kennedy went on to be a statesman like his father. He became a state senator and worked for the House of U.S. Representatives for 6 years. In 1960, Senator Kennedy started his campaign for the President of the United States. At that time, he was running against his Republican rival, Richard Nixon, who was the vice president at the time. It's important to note that these two held the first presidential debates in U.S. history. And as people watched, they said Nixon looked uncomfortable and didn't belong there, and that President Kennedy had won the debate as far as television, but radio listeners thought that Nixon had won the debate. So it went down to be one of the most contested and close presidential elections. So January 1961, Kennedy was elected President of the United States, 35th President. Some notable things that he was part of was giving the order for the Bay of Pigs, which was the order to send 1,500 Cuban exiles that had been trained by the U.S. military into Cuba to infiltrate and take over Fidel Castro's regime. Well, it failed miserably, and some of them were killed, others were kept captive, and ultimately held for ransom. So this was a huge black eye for Kennedy because it happened in his first term. The second most notable thing is the Cuban Missile Crisis. So at the time, relations between the United States and the Soviet Union were at an all-time high as far as tensions, and things weren't good. So the Cuban Missile Crisis lasted 13 days, and Kennedy was able to have the Soviet Union disarm and destroy their missile settlements in Cuba. This was an agreement that the U.S. removed their missiles from Turkey and that they would complete future talks. So this was considered to be a victory by the United States in the world. After that, Kennedy's approval rating went from near 25-30% to 70-75%. The world loved, the U.S. loved. So on November 22nd, 1963, as I spoke before, in Dallas, Texas, he was shot. Supposedly, he was shot by a man named Lee Harvey Oswald. He was an employee of the Children's Book Depository at the time, and 3 shots rang out that were heard. So the most notable thing to say is that while there's conspiracies, 2 shots hit Kennedy. And one was in the back that traveled and exited through his throat, and another shot was directly to his head, which was considered the kill shot. So Oswald wasn't immediately picked up for the assassination. He was picked up for the murder of a local police officer, and then later linked to the crime. While Oswald was being transferred from the police station to a new facility, a man named Jack Ruby hid in the basement, and as they were moving him out, came up and shot Oswald. Conspiracies lie behind this as well, because Ruby was, a known nightclub owner in Texas, and he was affiliated with a lot of the underworld crime syndicates. So ultimately, that day, one of the greatest American heroes died. The life of John Fitzgerald Kennedy is one that's filled with triumph and tragedy. Few figures in American history have been faced with the same challenges that he was faced with and that he overcame. So I hope that I've enlightened you a little bit about John F. Kennedy and his life, not only his assassination. And I thank you guys for coming here.